In the far reaches of the Andromeda sector, countless star systems had been at war for generations. Entire civilizations had risen and fallen, their histories written in flames and echoes of old battles. Among these stories was one that many dismissed as nothing more than myth, the legend of humans, a species said to be extinct or perhaps only a tale told to frighten young aliens. Humans were strong, clever, unstoppable, some would whisper. But most laughed at the idea. How could a single species survive in a galaxy filled with powerful empires, advanced weapons, and endless conflict? Commander Lyra of the Starshield Coalition had spent her entire life fighting wars she did not fully understand. Her fleet patrolled the Outer Rim, a border region filled with hidden dangers, pirate raids, and old minefields from centuries-long conflicts. Her scouts had detected unusual energy readings in a quiet sector near the edge of known space. "Nothing we know could create this," said Lieutenant Vec, her second-in-command. Lyra frowned, her mind racing. Could it be a new weapon or something else entirely? Meanwhile, far beyond the eyes of the war-weary aliens, humans had been living quietly on an isolated star system. They were few in number compared to the great alien empires, but they had survived. They were not advanced in the way others were, but they were clever, adaptable, and unafraid. Their ships were simple, but their designs allowed for flexibility no alien technology could match. Humans trained every day, preparing their bodies and minds for the possibility that one day the galaxy would notice them again. On the human command ship, Captain Jason stood on the observation deck, staring at the flickering lights of distant stars. He had heard the stories of other species, tales of empires clashing in a galaxy that seemed too big to understand. But what had truly convinced him that humans might have a place in this universe was the feeling that their time had finally come. "The legends are right," he said quietly to himself. "It's time." Back in the Coalition fleet, Lyra's scouts reported that a fleet of unknown ships had appeared on the edge of the sector. They moved fast, sleek, and silent. "We've never seen technology like this," said Vec. Lyra felt a cold tension tighten her chest. These ships didn't match the signatures of any known enemy. Could this be the humans? No one could know for sure, but something about the reports did not sit right. The fleet was too organized, too precise to be pirates or scavengers. The aliens prepared for a skirmish. Their ships bristled with weapons, shields humming, engines glowing. Yet something about this approaching force felt different. Lyra ordered her fleet to hold formation and wait. They would not attack first, but they would not be caught off guard either. On the human side, Jason gathered his small council. "They don't know we exist," he said. "But we know they are coming. We will not run. Today, humans will show themselves for the first time in centuries." His crew, though nervous, nodded in agreement. They had trained for this moment. They had studied alien tactics, learned their weaknesses, and prepared strategies that relied not on firepower alone but on intelligence, speed, and creativity. The humans moved silently through the darkness of space. Their ships were small, almost invisible compared to the massive alien vessels. They avoided detection, slipping between sensors and patrols. It was a dangerous gamble, but humans had always relied on ingenuity rather than brute force. Every decision was calculated, every movement precise. In the Coalition Command Center, Lyra watched the readings carefully. Strange energy pulses blinked across her screen. The signals were not consistent with any known fleet. It was as if something alive was moving through space, something that was watching, learning, adapting. She felt a twinge of unease. "Prepare for contact," she said to her officers, "and be ready for anything." Meanwhile, human ships continued their approach using asteroid belts and debris fields as cover. They communicated in quick bursts, each message short and coded, sharing vital information about the positions and movements of enemy vessels. "They're close," Jason said. "Hold your positions. Wait for my signal." His crew understood immediately. Patience was part of the human way. Rushing in blindly could mean disaster. Hours passed in tense silence. Both sides waited, watching the stars. Then suddenly the humans struck, not with overwhelming firepower, but with speed and precision. They targeted a small, vulnerable communications ship, disabling it before the aliens could react. Alarms blared across the Coalition fleet. "What is that?" one officer shouted. Lyra's eyes narrowed. The readings confirmed it. These ships were moving too unpredictably, too intelligently to be conventional fighters. The humans were everywhere and nowhere at once. They moved through asteroid fields, warped around planets, and struck isolated targets with unerring accuracy. Each attack was surgical, leaving the enemy confused and frustrated. Reports began circulating among the aliens. Could it be humans? Many dismissed it at first. Humans were legends after all, a myth. But the evidence grew impossible to ignore. Lyra felt a strange mixture of fear and respect. These attackers were not just powerful. They were clever. They anticipated moves, avoided traps, and used the environment in ways no alien fleet had ever considered. She realized that if these humans were real, they were unlike any species she had ever encountered. Meanwhile, on the human command ship, Jason watched the chaos unfold with a calm focus. "Keep going," he said. "We are only beginning." His crew executed the next phase of the plan. Small teams infiltrated alien sensor networks, sending false signals and creating confusion. The humans were rewriting the battlefield in real time, using strategy, creativity, and courage rather than raw power. As night fell across distant planets and moons, the first signs of a larger battle began to take shape. The aliens were regrouping, trying to understand what had happened. Their reports were full of frustration and disbelief. "It's like they disappear and reappear," one officer said. "I don't understand." Lyra clenched her fists. She had faced many enemies before, but never one like this. The humans, however, were not reckless. They pulled back before the aliens could mount a counterattack, leaving just enough evidence to be noticed, just enough to create fear and confusion. Jason knew the importance of legend. Humans had been forgotten, dismissed as myths. Now they had to make their presence known without overextending themselves. By the time the aliens realized they were dealing with a real intelligent species, it was too late. Humans had already disrupted key supply lines, damaged communication networks, and left the enemy fleet questioning its own strategy. Among the alien soldiers, whispers spread like wildfire. Humans are not myths. They are real. And they are dangerous. Commander Lyra studied the reports late into the night. Her mind raced with questions. How many humans were there? What were their limits? Could they really challenge the might of an entire galactic empire? She had spent her career believing in the superiority of technology, strategy, and training. But now she realized that something else, something unpredictable, was at work. In the quiet of the human command ship, Jason allowed himself a small smile. "They doubted us," he said softly. "They always do, but humans are not legends. We are real. And soon the galaxy will see it too." His crew looked at him with determination. They were ready for whatever came next. They knew the war was only beginning, and that their skills, courage, and ingenuity would be tested like never before. As both sides prepared for the next encounter, the first seeds of legend began to sprout once more. Humans, long thought extinct, were back in the galaxy, and nothing would ever be the same again. The galaxy had long whispered tales of humans, but most had dismissed them as myths. Now, after their sudden appearance at the edge of the Andromeda sector, those whispers had turned into fear. Alien commanders poured over reports of attacks that seemed impossible. Ships had been disabled in seconds, formations disrupted before any countermeasures could be taken, and entire communication networks jammed without explanation. Humans were no longer a story. They were real and they were clever. Captain Jason stood on the bridge of the human command ship, his eyes scanning the holographic map. Red dots marked alien ships, but his fleet was small in comparison. That didn't matter. Humans relied on strategy, speed, and adaptability. "Remember," he told his crew, "we don't win by numbers. We win by thinking faster than they do." Lieutenant Mara, his tactical officer, nodded. "They're reorganizing, Captain. It looks like they're trying to figure out how we did it." Jason's lips curved into a faint smile. "Good, confusion is our ally. We strike when they least expect it." The human ship split into smaller units, each moving independently through the asteroid fields near the planet Draconis IV. The terrain was dangerous, but humans had trained for this. Alien ships, larger and less maneuverable, struggled to follow. Their sensors were advanced, but they had not accounted for humans' unorthodox tactics. At the same time, the alien fleet's flagship, a massive vessel named the Obsidian Spear, began coordinating a counterattack. Commander Lyra watched from her bridge, her hands clenched around the railing. "They're fast, yes, but they cannot match our firepower," she said. Her second-in-command, Vec, shook his head. "They are not just fast. They predict our movements. They adapt instantly. This is unprecedented. Lyra's mind raced. She had fought countless enemies before, but nothing had prepared her for humans. They were not merely soldiers. They were thinkers, inventors, and improvisers. Every attack she had predicted had been anticipated and countered. Every trap she had set had been avoided, and yet they were still hiding their true strength. Meanwhile, on Draconis IV, human strike teams prepared for their first major assault. Small, agile ships darted between the asteroids, ready to attack the enemy's supply lines. The humans' goal was simple: weaken the aliens without risking too many lives. Humans valued life, not just their own, but even those of their enemies when possible. They fought with precision, avoiding unnecessary destruction, but when necessary, they struck decisively. Jason gave the order. Go. The attack began. Human ships moved like shadows, invisible until it was too late. They disabled alien supply ships, cutting off vital resources and leaving the enemy fleet scrambling. Alien pilots fired blindly, their large weapons missing the smaller, faster human vessels. Communication lines were jammed and confusion spread across the fleet. On the Obsidian Spear, Lyra's officers shouted reports. They're attacking our carriers. How are they doing this? They move unpredictably, Vex said, his voice tense. They use the environment. Asteroids, debris, everything. It's like they are part of the battlefield itself. Lyra felt a shiver. She had believed humans were extinct, but now she realized they were more than survivors. They were a force the galaxy had never seen before. She gave the order to focus fire, but every move seemed to be countered. Human ships slipped through attacks as if they were shadows dancing between the stars. Meanwhile, small teams of humans infiltrated alien systems remotely, using hacking modules to disable weapons and shields. They left messages behind for alien commanders, symbols and warnings that told them humans were watching and that they were not to underestimate them. It was psychological warfare as much as tactical. In one daring move, a human ship piloted by Lieutenant Mara approached the Obsidian Spear undetected. Using a combination of stealth technology and precise timing, she launched a pulse that temporarily disabled the flagship's shields. Alarms blared and alien officers scrambled to respond, but it was too late. Mara slipped away, leaving the flagship vulnerable to other attacks. Back on the Obsidian Spear, Lyra gritted her teeth. She realized that raw power was not enough. These humans were not just clever, they were fearless. They struck without hesitation, adapted without pause, and retreated before the enemy could counterattack effectively. Every move seemed calculated to create maximum confusion with minimum risk. In the midst of the chaos, one young alien officer whispered almost to himself, Are they human? Lyra heard it and froze. Do not speak of myths in my command center, she said sharply. But even she could not ignore the evidence. Every report, every strange tactic pointed to a species she had thought only existed in stories. On the human command ship, Jason observed the results of the first strike. The alien supply lines were in disarray, several key ships were damaged, and morale among the enemy ranks was low. But he knew this was only the beginning. They underestimate us, he said to his crew, and that is our advantage. They will try to fight smarter next time. We need to stay one step ahead. The humans regrouped, preparing for the next wave. Their success had been impressive, but they could not let pride cloud judgment. They had trained for this scenario, knowing that alien fleets would retaliate. Every human crew member understood that survival depended on teamwork, ingenuity, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. As night fell over Draconis IV, the first reports of humans spread through the alien ranks. Officers whispered in disbelief, "They are not myths." They exist, rumors turned into fear. Some alien factions even began to doubt their own leaders. How could a species so small, so supposedly extinct, cause such havoc? Lyra, despite her frustration, could not ignore the brilliance of the humans' tactics. She realized that defeating them would require more than force. It would require understanding, adaptability, and perhaps a willingness to admit that humans were something entirely new, something extraordinary. Meanwhile, Jason gathered his officers for a debrief. The first strike was successful, but it also sent a message, he said. Humans are back. We are not just surviving, we are making the galaxy notice us. And we must be ready. The aliens will respond. They will adapt. But so will we, Mara nodded. We've shown them that humans are real. That alone is powerful. Jason smiled faintly. Yes, legends are stronger when proven real. And today we have begun rewriting the story of our species. One battle, one strategy at a time. In the distance, alien ships regrouped, preparing for a counterattack that would test both human skill and ingenuity. But humans had already proven something vital. Size and numbers did not guarantee victory. Intelligence, courage, and creativity could turn the tide of war. As the first night of the humans' return ended, the galaxy began to change. Aliens who had once laughed at tales of humans now whispered with fear and respect. Commanders doubted their own tactics. Soldiers questioned their orders. And in the shadows of space, humans prepared for the battles yet to come. For the first time in centuries, humans were no longer legends. They were real. They were unstoppable in ways the galaxy had never imagined. And their story had only just begun. The aftermath of the first strike left the alien fleets in shock. Ships were scattered, supply lines disrupted, and communication networks in disarray. For the first time in decades, fear had crept into the hearts of seasoned alien commanders. Rumors of the humans spread like wildfire, whispers turning to nervous chatter among soldiers. "They are not myths," one officer muttered to another. "They are real, and they are unpredictable." Commander Lyra paced on the bridge of the obsidian spear, her mind racing. Every plan she had made to regain control had been countered before it could take effect. Every move had been anticipated. She clenched her fists, realizing that brute force alone would no longer win this war. Humans were unlike any enemy she had faced. They were clever, adaptable, and fearless. "They are planning something bigger," Lyra said, turning to her officers. "Prepare the fleet. Reinforce the shields. They cannot be allowed to strike again so effectively." Her officers scrambled to follow orders, yet an unspoken tension lingered. The humans were changing the way the galaxy thought about war, proving that intelligence and strategy could outweigh size and firepower. Meanwhile, in the human command ship, Captain Jason studied the movements of the alien fleets. "They are reorganizing," he said. "They will try to hit us harder this time, but we are ready." Lieutenant Mara nodded, fingers flying across the controls as she calculated optimal positions. "We can use their aggression against them," she suggested. "Draw them into terrain that works in our favor. Let them underestimate us again." Jason smiled. "Exactly. Humans are not just fighters. We are thinkers, and that is how we survive." The humans devised a plan to lure the alien fleet toward the moon of Zephyra, a rocky, irregularly shaped satellite that had long been considered too dangerous for large-scale battle. Its jagged terrain, deep canyons, and constant meteor storms made it nearly impossible for conventional ships to maneuver. But humans were masters of adaptability. They would use Zephyra to their advantage. Small strike teams moved ahead of the main human fleet, disabling alien sensors along the way and creating false signals to guide the enemy into the trap. The aliens, confident in their superiority, fell into the ambush. They did not know that every move they made had been anticipated by humans who had studied their tactics for years. As the alien ships entered Zephyra's orbit, the humans sprung their trap. Asteroids were nudged into precise orbits, creating barriers and bottlenecks. Mines, previously hidden within the rocky terrain, detonated at calculated moments, slowing and damaging alien ships. Communication signals were scrambled, leaving commanders unable to coordinate effectively. The humans had turned the moon itself into a weapon. On the obsidian spear, alarms blared. Lyra's officers shouted orders, but their voices were drowned in the chaos of exploding ships and failing systems. "What is happening?" Lyra demanded. The readings showed unexpected attacks from every angle. "Impossible," she muttered, scanning the sensors. But the evidence was clear. The humans were orchestrating the battlefield like a single, precise unit. In the thick of the battle, Lieutenant Mara led a small team of human ships through narrow canyons, striking at key targets with surgical precision. Each move was calculated, every shot aimed to disable without unnecessary destruction. The alien forces, accustomed to overwhelming power, struggled to adapt. Their massive ships could not maneuver in Zephyra's unpredictable terrain, and every attempt to flank the humans failed. Captain Jason observed the battlefield from the main command ship. "Keep pushing," he instructed. "Their overconfidence is their weakness. They expect brute force, not strategy. We must exploit that." Human ships darted in and out of cover, striking vulnerable points and then disappearing before the aliens could respond. Meanwhile, alien soldiers whispered among themselves, their fear growing. "How can they do this?" one said. They are so few in number, yet they control the battlefield. Another replied, They must be humans. The stories, they were true. Lyra gritted her teeth. She realized that the humans were doing more than fighting. They were teaching the galaxy a lesson. Strategy, courage, and adaptability were just as powerful as any weapon. And these humans had mastered them all. Amid the chaos, a daring human strike team led by Lieutenant Rena infiltrated the alien flagship's outer defenses. Using stealth technology and clever maneuvers, they disabled key systems, creating confusion and giving the main fleet an advantage. We are showing them that humans are not just fighters, Rena said over the comms. We are thinkers. We are unstoppable when we work together. Back on the obsidian spear, Lyra watched helplessly as her fleet faltered. The humans' clever use of terrain, technology, and timing had turned a small force into a formidable opponent. Her officers began to question their own strategies, realizing that traditional methods would not suffice against this new enemy. The battle raged for hours, but the outcome was becoming clear. Alien ships were damaged, some destroyed, and morale was breaking. Humans, though fewer in number, continued to strike with precision and efficiency. Every movement was calculated, every decision made with the goal of maximizing impact while minimizing risk. Finally, as the dust of the battle settled, the humans pulled back, leaving the aliens to regroup. The obsidian spear had survived, but its fleet was severely weakened. The aliens were shaken to their core. Reports of human skill, intelligence, and courage spread throughout the galaxy. No longer were humans dismissed as myths. They were real, and they were changing the balance of power. Captain Jason gathered his crew after the battle. We have proven ourselves today, he said. The galaxy knows humans are here. They know we are clever, strong, and unstoppable when we work together. But this is only the beginning. We must remain vigilant. The aliens will retaliate, and we must be ready. Lieutenant Mara nodded. We've shown them what humans can do. They will be afraid next time, but we must be smarter. We must stay one step ahead. In distant command centers, alien leaders convened, their fear evident. Rumors of humans spread, and some began to question their own commanders. How could a species thought extinct disrupt entire fleets? How could so few strike with such precision? The answers were clear. Humans were extraordinary, and their presence would change the galaxy forever. Commander Lyra, though frustrated, could not deny the truth. Humans were not just survivors. They were innovators, strategists, and warriors in a way she had never imagined. If the galaxy was to survive, it would need to understand humans, not fight them blindly. As the humans returned to their hidden system to regroup and repair, their spirits were high. They had not just fought, they had proven that humans were real, capable, and formidable. And more importantly, they had begun to turn the tide of a war that had raged for decades. For the first time in generations, humans were no longer just legends. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy would never forget the day they revealed themselves. The echoes of the humans' victory on Zephyra reverberated across the galaxy. Alien fleets that had once laughed at the idea of humans now whispered their names with caution, even fear. Commander Lyra, still reeling from the unexpected defeat, called for an urgent council with allied factions. Her voice was steady but sharp. We face a new kind of enemy, she said. Not one of size or firepower alone, but of intelligence, creativity, and unpredictability. They are not extinct. They are humans, and they are real, the council murmured nervously. Some factions wanted to strike immediately, to wipe out this threat before it could grow stronger. Others hesitated, realizing that fighting humans recklessly could lead to more disastrous losses. Perhaps, an older alien diplomat suggested, we could seek understanding. Perhaps they are not like other species. Perhaps they can be reasoned with. Meanwhile, Captain Jason and his crew were far from the politics of alien councils. Back in their hidden star system, they repaired ships, replenished supplies, and trained tirelessly. Humans understood the value of preparation. They knew that the next stage of this conflict would be far more dangerous, and they needed every advantage. Lieutenant Mara, standing beside Jason on the observation deck, looked out at the stars. They will not stop sending fleets. They will try to overwhelm us eventually. Jason nodded. Yes, but we've shown them that numbers are not everything. Intelligence, strategy, and adaptability can defeat even the largest forces. We also need allies. Not every species will trust humans, but some will see our value, and we will need them. True to Jason's prediction, alien factions began to approach cautiously. Some reached out with messages of peace asking to meet in neutral space. Their representatives wanted to understand the humans, their strength, and their goals. Humans welcomed this cautiously, knowing that diplomacy could be just as powerful as weapons. The first meeting took place near the asteroid field of Archon 9, a neutral zone known for its treacherous terrain. Representatives from 3 alien factions arrived in small vessels, each wary and tense. Jason greeted them with calm confidence. "We are not here to fight without cause," he said. "We are humans. We fight when necessary, but we also seek understanding. If the galaxy is to survive, we must work together." The aliens studied him carefully. Some remained skeptical, others curious. A diplomat named Cathar spoke first. "Why should we trust a species thought extinct? How do we know your intentions are not to dominate us as well?" Jason smiled gently. "Humans are not here to dominate. We are here to survive, to protect our people, and to help end this endless war. We offer our knowledge, our strategies, and our courage. Together, we can change the course of history." The meeting was tense, but slowly, the alien representatives began to see the humans in a new light. Their intelligence, careful planning, and honesty contrasted with the ruthless tactics often used in galactic war. Trust would not come quickly, but the seeds were planted. Back in the Coalition fleet, Lyra was forced to reconsider her own approach. She could not underestimate humans again. They had shown not just skill in battle, but moral strength, an ability to inspire loyalty and cooperation even among species that had once been enemies. It was clear that the humans were becoming more than warriors. They were leaders capable of uniting factions through example and action. Humans, meanwhile, prepared for the next stage. Jason and his officers knew that alliances would be tested. Not all aliens would be friendly, and some would try to exploit humans' presence for their own gain. "We must be cautious," Jason told his crew. "We fight with strategy and integrity. We do not compromise our values. That is what makes humans different and strong." As alliances began to form, the humans launched a series of joint operations with willing alien factions. Together, they disrupted enemy supply lines, defended strategic planets, and even liberated colonies that had been trapped in ongoing conflicts. Humans relied on their creativity, intelligence, and courage, while their allies contributed strength, resources, and numbers. The combination proved unstoppable. On one operation near the planet Varela, a small human strike team worked with alien engineers to disable a heavily fortified orbital station. While the aliens provided firepower and shields, humans infiltrated the station using clever tricks, improvised tools, and precise timing. The mission succeeded without significant loss, further strengthening trust between species. Elsewhere, Commander Lyra observed these alliances forming and felt a mixture of frustration and respect. The humans had not only proven their ability to fight, they had shown the ability to inspire cooperation. She realized that defeating humans would require more than traditional tactics. They would need strategy, creativity, and perhaps a willingness to adapt in ways they had never considered. Despite the growing cooperation, tensions remained. Some alien factions were jealous or fearful of humans' rising influence. Skirmishes broke out occasionally, testing the new alliances. But every time, humans approached the conflict not with arrogance or domination, but with clever solutions that minimized destruction while achieving objectives. They reminded their allies that courage and intelligence could be just as powerful as weapons. In private, Jason spoke to his closest officers. "The galaxy is changing," he said. "Humans are no longer hidden. They are no longer legends. We have shown that one species, if clever and united, can shift the balance of power. But we cannot grow complacent. The aliens who fear us will strike harder. The ones who follow us must trust us. Our challenge is not just survival, it is leadership." Lieutenant Mara nodded. "And we are ready. Humans have always adapted. We fight, we think, we survive. And now we show the galaxy what we are capable of." As days passed, the humans and their allies prepared for what would become a decisive stage in the war. Humans trained their crews, shared strategies with allied species, and coordinated plans to defend vital systems. Every maneuver, every operation was carefully calculated to maximize effectiveness and minimize risk. Meanwhile, rumors of human bravery and ingenuity spread throughout enemy ranks. Soldiers whispered stories of impossible attacks, flawless strategy, and unyielding courage. Even those who had once dismissed humans as myths began to reconsider. Perhaps these humans were the key to changing the war entirely. Commander Lyra, determined not to be outsmarted again, began studying human tactics in detail. She analyzed every movement, every strike, every decision made during previous battles. She realized that humans were not just unpredictable, they were adaptable, creative, and fearless. Traditional strategies would no longer work against them. If she hoped to survive and lead her fleet, she would need to think differently. On the human command ship, Jason looked out at the stars, reflecting on how far humans had come in such a short time. "We have proven ourselves," he said. "But the galaxy is still full of challenges. We must continue to show that humans are clever, honorable, and strong. That is how we survive. That is how we change the universe." The humans had begun to form not only alliances but also a reputation. Other species, inspired by their courage and ingenuity, began to join the cause. Slowly, humans were no longer alone. They had allies who trusted them, species who had seen firsthand what humans could do. Together, they became a growing force, capable of challenging even the most powerful fleets in the galaxy. For the first time, the humans' place in the galaxy was secure. They were no longer legends whispered in stories. They were leaders, warriors, and strategists. And as they prepared for the battles to come, one thing was certain. The humans were unstoppable, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy had changed. Rumors of humans once dismissed as myths had spread to every corner of known space. Aliens who had once scoffed at stories of a small, clever species now whispered in awe and fear. Humans had proven themselves in battle, strategy, and leadership. Yet the final test was still ahead, a decisive battle that would determine the fate of entire sectors. Captain Jason stood on the bridge of the human command ship, watching the enemy fleet assemble near the planet Solara Prime. The alien forces were massive, their numbers far greater than the combined human and allied fleets. It was a challenge unlike any the humans had faced before, but Jason felt no fear.
"We are humans," he said quietly to his crew.
"We are clever, adaptable, and united. That is our strength. Today we show the galaxy who we truly are." Lieutenant Mara nodded beside him. "They will expect brute force. But humans fight differently. They don't just react, they think, they adapt, they surprise." The Allied fleets aligned alongside the humans, forming a defensive perimeter around the strategic planet. Human ships, though smaller and fewer, were at the heart of the formation. They had studied the enemy's tactics in detail, predicting moves and planning counter-strategies that even seasoned alien commanders would not expect. Commander Lyra, leading the alien forces, observed the formation. Her mind raced. The humans were not just fighters, they were organizers, leaders, and visionaries. Their alliances had strengthened and their influence was evident. She gritted her teeth.
"We cannot allow them to succeed," she said.
"We must strike hard and fast. They are clever, but they are still only a small force." The battle began with a sudden volley from the alien fleet. Massive ships fired on human and allied positions, creating explosions that lit the void of space. The allied fleets responded immediately, engaging in dogfights, defending supply lines, and protecting critical systems. But the humans had a plan far beyond simple defense. Captain Jason gave orders with calm precision. "Split into strike teams. Target key enemy ships. Use terrain and timing to your advantage. Remember, we are not just fighting. We are thinking." Human ships darted between asteroid fields, planetary rings, and debris, striking at vulnerable points in the alien fleet. They avoided direct confrontations where possible, relying on clever tactics and quick maneuvers. Lieutenant Rena led one of the human strike teams toward the enemy flagship, a massive warship bristling with weapons. Using a combination of stealth modules and decoy signals, Rena's team disabled key systems, leaving the ship vulnerable to Allied fire. Explosions rocked the flagship, throwing the alien fleet into temporary disarray. In the midst of the chaos, human ingenuity shone brightest. Using synchronized maneuvers, small teams of human ships created diversions while others delivered precise strikes. Alien commanders, despite their experience and technology, struggled to adapt to a force that moved unpredictably yet deliberately. Every move by the humans seemed calculated to exploit weaknesses that only they could see. On the obsidian spear, Lyra realized the magnitude of the humans' strategy. Her fleet was powerful, but their tactics were rigid. Humans had turned the battlefield into a chessboard, and she was playing against an opponent who could anticipate her every move. "They are extraordinary," she muttered almost to herself. "I underestimated them, and it may cost us everything." Meanwhile, Captain Jason coordinated attacks from the central command ship. "Focus on the communications network," he ordered. "Cut their coordination. Force them to react to us, not the other way around." Human engineers sent hacking pulses that disrupted alien communication, leaving ships to fight blindly. The Allied fleets took advantage, striking isolated targets with precision. The battle raged across space and planetary orbits. Explosions, energy beams, and the roar of engines filled the void as humans and their allies pressed forward. For every alien advantage, the humans had a counter. For every trap, a clever escape. The legend of humans, long dismissed, was becoming reality in the eyes of every alien witnessing the fight. In a daring maneuver, Lieutenant Mara led a group of ships to flank the alien rear. Using gravitational fields of nearby moons and carefully calculated trajectories, they avoided detection until the last moment, striking enemy supply vessels and forcing the alien fleet to split its focus. Chaos spread among the ranks and morale began to waver. Back on the obsidian spear, Lyra watched in disbelief as her carefully planned battle unraveled. Humans were not just strong, they were inspiring. Aliens who had once fought blindly for orders now hesitated, some even considering surrender or negotiation. The humans' combination of skill, intelligence, and courage had shifted the balance entirely. As the battle reached its climax, Captain Jason authorized the final strike. Small human teams infiltrated critical enemy ships, disabling engines and weapon systems. Coordinated attacks from Allied fleets compounded the damage. Alien ships began to retreat, their formation breaking apart. The humans' strategy had succeeded. They had turned a desperate situation into a decisive victory. When the dust settled, the battlefield was quiet, save for the faint hum of damaged ships. The human and Allied fleets had prevailed. The aliens were defeated not by sheer numbers or firepower alone, but by a combination of strategy, intelligence, and courage, the very traits that defined humanity. Commander Lyra, though defeated, recognized the truth. Humans were not myths. They were real, clever, and capable of uniting species through example and action. "They have changed everything," she said quietly to her remaining officers. "We cannot fight them as we have fought others. We must adapt or perish." Captain Jason stood on the bridge, watching the remnants of the alien fleet retreat. His crew cheered quietly, but he remained calm. "We have won this battle," he said. "But our work is not done. The galaxy now knows humans are real. Legends are powerful, but reality is stronger. We must continue to show what humans can do." In the following days, stories of the humans' bravery, intelligence, and leadership spread across the galaxy. Aliens who had once doubted their existence now spoke of them with awe. Young soldiers whispered of human ingenuity. Commanders studied their tactics, trying to understand a species that could turn the course of war with creativity and courage. Allied species, inspired by humans, strengthened their cooperation. Together, they rebuilt systems, defended colonies, and prepared for future conflicts. The humans' example had shown that even in a galaxy of giants, one species could make a difference through intelligence, unity, and courage. On the human command ship, Captain Jason gathered his officers one last time. "We have proven ourselves," he said. "Not through numbers, not through raw power, but through thinking, adapting, and leading. The galaxy now knows humans are real, humans are strong, and humans will continue to shape the future." Lieutenant Mara smiled. "We've shown them who we are. They will no longer call us legends, they will call us reality." Captain Jason looked out at the stars, reflecting on the journey. From myth to legend to reality, humans had risen in a galaxy that once thought them extinct. Their courage, intelligence, and integrity had changed the course of history. And while challenges would continue, one thing was certain. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of humans. They were no longer stories told to children. They were warriors, leaders, and heroes. Their legend was realized not in myth but in action, courage, and determination. And as humans prepared for the future, one truth remained clear. Nothing could stop them when they fought together, thought creatively, and never gave up. The stars seemed brighter now, not because of explosions or battle, but because humanity had proven its place among them, and across the galaxy every species would remember the day humans returned, not as legends but as reality. Humans had entered the battle. And in doing so, they had forever changed the universe.